Deciding which 16 players to put into the reboot seasons was a mixed bag. For the girls, it was very easy since a select few get all of the screen time. However, the guys aren't given as much grace, so choosing out of them was a bit more difficult. The girls I have decided on were Beth, Bridget, Courtney, Gwen, Heather, Izzy, Lashana, and Lindsay. 7 of these 8 girls are in all 3 of the first trilogy of Total Drama, and the only one that isn't is a previous finalist. Now for the guys, the only ones that came to me straight away were Duncan and Owen. Not only were they in all 3 seasons, but they made merge in every season. Now after going back to watch the trilogy, I've noticed that Harold and DJ are the only 2 other guys to be in all 3 seasons, which is sad, but nonetheless, they're in the season as well. Now considering he was a former finalist and made an appearance in All Stars, I think it's safe to say Alejandro has earned a spot in the season as well. Now from here, I chose to remove Ezekiel, Noah, and Tyler from the equation, since they're the 3 guys to have never made the merge. That leaves me with 4 options and 3 spots left. But there was an easy solution to this, and that is to just remove Justin. Here's the thing, Justin and Alejandro have a pretty similar gimmick, and I didn't feel like there was much I could do to properly differentiate the 2. So with Justin being exiled, that leaves Trent, Jeff, and Cody to be in the season. And now that we have our 16 players, we can begin episode 1 of the What If. The teams were completely randomized. Once Chris does his introduction to the season, the players are introduced one by one. The first player introduced is Heather. Chris tries to greet her, but she brushes him off and walks to the other end of the dock, awaiting her opponents. Alejandro would be the next player introduced. He greets Chris in a peaceful manner and walks over to Heather. He speaks to her flirtatiously. She couldn't care less, but she does admire the view in secret. She already doesn't like this guy. Izzy is next to be introduced. Her introduction goes pretty much the same as it does in canon, with her accidentally hitting her face on the dock and being helped up by Alejandro, only to start saying random shit like a lunatic. Trent is the next introduced. Nothing major really happens in his introduction, though he did bring his guitar, which catches the attention of a few. Lindsay is introduced after Trent. As she walks across the dock, she'd receive a compliment from Alejandro. Unfortunately, she misunderstands the compliment, causing everyone to immediately realize she's not the brightest. Courtney is introduced next. She'd come across as mostly peaceful. When she sees her fellow competitors, she wishes them all a fair game. The others like this, except for Heather, who couldn't care less. Jeff is introduced after that. Everyone can instantly tell he's a vibe from the way he celebrates being here. They all find a liking to his positivity. Beth is next to be introduced. Her introduction goes as it does in canon, with her admitting she's a huge fan of his. She worries a few people with her crazed attitude. Cody's introduced next. He would claim to be a perfect fit for Total Drama, as he's watched the previous seasons, and he thinks he could pull off a perfect gameplay. He walks across the dock with false confidence, which disturbs some of the others. DJ is next to be introduced. His introduction is pretty peaceful, as he greets everyone with nothing but positivity and kindness. Gwen is the next player to be introduced. She obviously is very moody about this, and walks by everyone with a frown on her face. Trent takes interest in her, but doesn't speak up. Bridget is next to be introduced. It goes down the same, with her almost whacking everyone in the face with her surfboard. She overall seems cool otherwise. Owen is introduced next. He'd be overflowing with energy and joy. It excites a few, concerns the rest, and especially disgusts Heather. Lashana is introduced next. She comes in with confidence that radiates through anything. She knows what she wants, and she's going to do whatever she can to get it. Harold is next to be introduced, and he and Lashana have their same dispute as in canon, which causes Harold to develop a slight admiration for Lashana, while Lashana just isn't satisfied with Harold right now. Duncan is the last player to be introduced. He intimidates a few of the other cast members, and although some couldn't care less, others don't trust him. After all of the introductions, Chris explains the premise and rules of the show. Afterwards, he sets them up with their teams and dismisses them to their cabins. On the girls' side of the ferocious trout cabin, Courtney would attempt to introduce herself to the others. Izzy would be busy climbing onto a top bunk and hanging upside down from it. Lindsay would focus on applying her makeup, and Heather just ignores them all and leaves. The team bonding is unsuccessful here. With the guys, there isn't much that happens yet. The most that could be noted is Alejandro attempts to be inspirational for his teammates, and they all just get along well. On the Frogs of Death, it's the reverse. The guys' cabin isn't exactly all vibes, and despite Owen's efforts to bring them together, the other guys mostly keep to themselves for now. Meanwhile, the girls would all get along with the exception of Gwen, who keeps to herself. After everyone settles into their cabins, the challenge starts. The pairs that run through the course are Courtney and Jeff, as well as Bridget and DJ. The pairs giving directions are Heather and Alejandro, as well as Lashana and Owen. Everyone else pulls the ropes for their team's buckets. Both teams run into problems right off the bat. Neither Jeff nor Owen are the best with directions, so they'd probably accidentally go in the wrong directions of every order or shout out the opposite of what they mean. In retaliation to this, Courtney has a confessional claiming to want to eliminate Jeff the first chance she gets, since he obviously wouldn't be helpful to the team with his lack of intelligence. Meanwhile, Lashana gets Owen to shut up while she shouts all of the directions for DJ and Bridget. Heather grows frustrated and orders Courtney and Jeff to speed up. Alejandro attempts to calm her down with his looks, and it only works temporarily before Heather realizes she's allowing herself to get distracted and focuses back on the competition. DJ and Bridget end up far in the lead, which Harold takes as a sign to shoot his shot on Lashana. He attempts to compliment her from the ground, and she initially takes pride in it, but after remembering their earlier encounter, she doesn't trust that it's coming from Harold. She has a confessional stating this, showing distrust towards him. With the other team in the lead, I can imagine Jeff having the same idea as Wayne and Cannon, causing him to carry Courtney on his back while trying to power through the course. And like in Cannon, it fails drastically, and they fall even further behind. Eventually, the buckets are on the wooden platform, and Beth, Gwen, Duncan, and Harold would have to pull the ropes to elevate the platform up to Owen and Lashana. The latter two grab the buckets, and the Frogs of Death win immunity. After the challenge, Bridget and DJ would thank Lashana for giving them good directions when Owen couldn't. Lashana would appreciate it. Bridget then brings up Harold, asking about his compliment. Lashana would voice her distrust towards him, which DJ would suggest keeping Bridget and himself close to aid her in case Harold tries something with her. Lashana would agree to this, and the three form an official alliance. Trent would run into Gwen after the challenge, congratulating her for her win. Gwen would remind him she barely competed, but Trent would say what matters is that she still put in the effort. Gwen thinks that's valid and thanks him for the compliment. He responds with no problem and walks off with his team to focus on the elimination. Heather still has the idea to form a three-player alliance. She would pull aside Izzy and Lindsay for it and successfully convinces them to join her side, but she asks them for a big favor to ensure this alliance is confirmed. She also manages to get Jeff's vote with a bit of manipulation. At the elimination ceremony, Chef would call out the three people at most risk of elimination, like he does in Cannon. He first calls out Heather for her easy frustration towards her teammates. Heather is convinced that's not a good enough reason to vote her off, and she'll be safe tonight. Chef then calls out Jeff for his awful plan during the challenge. Jeff would be disappointed in himself for the plan as well, and hangs his head in shame. Finally, Chef calls out Courtney for not having any faith in Jeff during the challenge. Courtney would try to say that isn't true, but she's cut off by Chris handing out marshmallows. The marshmallows go to Lindsay, Trent, Cody, Izzy, Courtney. Jeff. And the final marshmallow goes to Heather. Alejandro would be very shocked, as would some of the team. Trent has a confessional, convinced Heather would have been eliminated. Heather has a confessional explaining Alejandro's attractiveness is a huge threat to her game, and she had to get rid of him. Courtney has a confessional saying it should have been Jeff in her opinion, but as long as it's not her, she's fine with anyone. Alejandro is pissed off when walking across the dock, and he's taken by the drone of despair. Chris then does the outro to the episode. And that was episode 1. What are your thoughts? Who do you think will win? If you want to see the next episode, make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned. But that's all for now. See you in the next video, and have a great day.